The Unlikely Innovators with Commito and Steve Gravel, presented by Cambrian R&D and the Center for Smart Mining.
Mike, how are you doing?
Doing well, Steve. Doing well. I think you could have, in that conversation, I could see the wheels in your mind turning around, telerobotics and autonomous vehicles in the mining industry, and how can, what Tim has done with ag tech, then now with OneShot Golf, maybe there's a solution for the mining industry there. So maybe there's a follow-up episode, right?
Could be. Yeah, could be. I think it was really fun to talk to Tim and really understand how they went from a very, very utilitarian agricultural robotics problem and repurpose that into a gaming sector offering. And I think too often, companies when they're starting up think of themselves as too siloed. I make mining technology or I make agricultural technology. You got to think about what your core sort of talent base is on your team and how many different verticals can I sell that to. And I think that's what Tim's done really well in going from ag tech to gaming. So really fun to chat with him today, and maybe we will eliminate some latency here and get right to Tim Borgares. Tim is co-founder and CTO of 54E Dev Studios, where he is changing the world of mobile gaming by giving users control of real-world robots with connected reality technology. As an early tech leader at GasBuddy, he built out many different technologies to help grow the company to a successful acquisition. Tim has a strong background in building communities, leading teams, and rapidly delivering software to solve problems. And we're so happy to be joined by Tim.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, great. And we're going to get into the really cool stuff you guys are doing, and I think it's really transformational tech and really capitalizing on an experience that we didn't know we needed. But I wanted to first, we often the name of the show is Unlikely Innovators, and we often start by sort of asking our guests to sort of unpack the winding journey that has been before us. So could you talk a bit about your career path and journey you've taken to get here?
Yeah, so it's a little bit straight line and a little bit sideways, but I grew up a lover of tech, of all things tech. I'm a nerd and a geek at the core, and I just love all that kind of stuff. So that part of it was all very natural for me. Games and computers from a young age. I went to university to do a computer science degree, and I was always, for me, very focused on getting out there in the world and doing something as fast as possible. So even midway through my school, I took a job at a software company and started writing software professionally, at least part-time, and just really excited about the ability to do things in what I think I've always seen as an exciting space, building software, building tech, doing all that kind of stuff. So but very software focused, so very, no hardware aspects for me at that point in time, nothing like that. I was really fortunate to kind of get involved with a really fantastic group of people here in Regina that started a company called GasBuddy, and they were doing something very unique at the time, especially for that time. People are familiar with crowdsourcing now, and this idea of people, reporting data or using Wikipedia and source, but that wasn't a thing when GasBuddy started. So it was literally one of the first crowdsourcing things out there, really early into gamification of mobile apps and mobile apps at all in general. It started as a website, right? So I was fortunate to be able to kind of get hooked up with a group of people there and be part of the GasBuddy journey. So that was a really a great formative experience for me. And from there, GasBuddy was acquired in 2013, stuck around there for a couple of years, ended up going and working for another kind of related company and developed a B2B SaaS offering in retail fuel industry, and got to do some exciting stuff like that. But ultimately, I could feel the forces tugging at my heartstrings, and I needed to dive back into the startup world, and that's kind of where we got started with the beginnings of 54E.
I was going to say, just speaking of GasBuddy, I think now is probably a time in Canada where we're probably seeing a lot of traffic with GasBuddy trying to find the most optimal, price at the pumps. So
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a funny thing actually. You know, we not to skip ahead too much, but this last May, Gas Buddy hit #1. Gas Buddy's been around for 20 years now. Gas Buddy hit #1 in the App Store across all apps.
Wow.
Just this last May, yet again. And on that very same day, actually, OneShot Golf got up to #11 across all apps in the App Store. So that was a really exciting time for us.
Yeah, it's coming full circle for you there. So actually,
Yeah.
Tim, kind of speaking of that, because we're going to get to obviously OneShot Golf. But I was going to ask you about, 54E Dev Studios, which you co-founded back in October of 2019. But you told Steve and I a great story offline before we started recording about the name, because, it's something that Steve and I wouldn't have picked up on. So it's probably something that a lot of the listeners wouldn't have picked up on. But can you tell us about how, what the inspiration for the name was?
Yeah. So we people ask us about the name 54E Dev Studios. Well, what's it mean? Why'd you pick 54E? The core of what we do is live video and robotics control technology. And if you take the number 54, convert it to a Roman numeral, it's LIV. So it spells LIVE, Live Dev Studios. So it's all about being live, real time. Everything's happening for you right now.
That's great. I mean, I think the 2 points in my life where I think of Roman numerals are either for the Super Bowl or that episode of The Simpsons when Bart is locked like in the tiger pen and he's got to figure out his way out. And
The
it's
Rocky movies.
7, Adrian's Revenge. So but anyway, I digress. So Tim, we wanted to get the inspiration for the name out of the way, but you talked about wanting to be pulled back. You got pulled back into the startup world. So can you talk a little about what I guess drew you back into it and what made you want to bring together real world robotics and app-based games to essentially form what is OneShot Golf?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so when I jumped back into the startup world and to do 54E, it wasn't quite that simple. We actually started doing something entirely different that led us to eventually do OneShot Golf. But the startup world for me has always been very, very powerful, very captivating. People are empowered to do things in the startup world, and that's not always the case in big companies and big organizations and stuff. And it to some extent it comes with the territory, but in the startup world, you really get to build things. You really get to create things. You get to achieve things, and you're the master of your own destiny. I think even if you're working at a startup, if you start your own startup, you have an ability to kind of steer the ship and see the results of your own efforts that sometimes is removed from people in big organizations and stuff. And I've always thought that's really powerful in the startup space. It lets people do things that are new and different and unexpected. And I see it as a really pushing forward innovation with small teams and all those kinds of things. So the startup world, natural for me, I would say. It was hard to leave and great to come back to. In regards to 54E and getting started with that, our story is strange maybe to some, but it makes a lot of sense when you get through it. We started doing ag tech. So as you guys probably are aware, Saskatchewan, lot of agriculture in Saskatchewan. We're pretty prairie, we're pretty central Canada, like you know what I mean. So Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, very agriculture. Saskatchewan in particular, really a nexus of agriculture stuff. And as technology in agriculture is evolving, we're starting to see a big uptake in what's happening here locally in the ag tech space as well, which has been really amazing. But that's where we started, is with ag tech. So we were working on a project where we were actually automating combines in the field. So take a big, gigantic, expensive combine, do a little bit of, without saying too much, a little bit of reverse engineering, figure out how things work and automate them. And that was the project we were doing. But we ran into a little bit of a snag, and that's that winters here, tough to get things done outside. So if you're trying to drive a combine in the field, not very possible in the winter. And so we said, well, what aspect of this project can we take indoors and work on? We got to keep all the wheels moving here. And one thing we wanted to do is be able to have remote control over the combine when it's necessary, because even if you automate stuff, things go wrong sometimes, and maybe you need to make an extra adjustment or a turn, or some system triggers and says there's an alarm, and now you need to deal with something that went wrong. You ran into a rock. I don't know. And so we thought, a live video platform where you could just steer the combine from your phone or whatever the heck, everybody has a mobile phone, right? Would be a great solution. And what we discovered is there is no such thing as live video. Everything is delayed. And that was an amazing discovery and an amazing challenge. And what we were able to do, is create technology that was the ultimate low latency connection for video and to control a robot. All this stuff out there, Twitch, YouTube, that have ultra low latency, streaming technology, all that stuff. Yeah, Super Bowl, everybody knows it's 7 seconds behind. But even the lowest latency stuff is like a second behind or 2 seconds behind. And when you're trying to turn a corner because you need to drive this combine right now, like you're going to miss your turn. You're going to hit that rock. You're going to, something's going to go wrong. So it was really critical for us to figure out a better way to solve that problem. And we spent a lot of time doing that. And that's ultimately what led us down the path of kind of live video robotics control systems, which underpins what we do at 54E. So it became winter. One of the things that people in Saskatchewan really like, even in the winter, is golf. That's not the only reason we went with golf, but it's certainly a driving factor. And so OneShot Golf was our kind of foray into prototyping that technology, and it's beginnings of where we got to now.
Yeah, I mean, Mike, you obviously know where I could ask 1,000 questions about what Tim just talked about, because I run a mining technology research hub here, and you can imagine that autonomy is something that is ultra relevant to the underground mining environment as well. And that low latency control, mission critical, just in time control is something that still sort of eludes us, right? I mean, there's the promise of 5G that we all are looking forward to. So we could have a whole other podcast if I asked you about the ins and outs of the tech that you guys are doing. One thing that we're often interested in, though, when we have these talks with people like you, is we know that startup founders are inherently humble, and you seem to be the same way. You've mentioned to us that you're a computer science grad, and your world was software. You must have had to go out and find a person that is a robotics expert, right? How did that happen? How did you bring a team to get together with the right skills to pull something like this off?
Yeah, so I guess twofold to that. One, coming from an agriculture, what was an ag tech startup and morphing into this, one of the terms that we use and throw around every now and then is farmer engineering. In Saskatchewan, people know it well. When you're out in the field and you have a problem, you're fixing that problem yourself. It doesn't matter if you have knowledge about that thing, you're going to learn it and you're going to do it. And that is really, it's a core part of how we've operated, trying to do something that is really fairly unique in the world with the kind of robotics and the systems that we have in place. And I think without that drive and without that kind of farmer engineering, let's just get it done aspect, it would be really, really hard to get as far as we've gotten. So, as for building a team, we were really fortunate to know some really smart, talented people that we worked with at Gas Buddy as well, and able to bring some of those people on board who are working with us now. And really, they're experts. Gas Buddy, like I said, pioneered some of the concepts in every app today, like crowdsourcing and gamification. And we're experts in figuring stuff out with no manual.
Yeah, that's great.
Really multi-talented that way. Really a lot of build it ourselves kind of attitude. Building a team for a project like this, I've always been a big believer, and we're big believers here, that there are really smart people out there searching for opportunities, and that you should hire smart people and get out of their way. We maintain just culturally here like a really flat hierarchy. There's not, nobody's got a manager. There's not anything like that going on. Everyone's able to contribute in multiple ways all the time, and contribute in many different ways. Everything from the CEO picking up the trash to a brand new dev leading a big core feature rollout. There's no barriers, and just opportunity for where you want to seek it out. And I think we've been lucky to find really great people who are looking for opportunities to contribute and and grow with us. I would be remiss if I didn't say I thought we had like a really cool project to work on, and that helped draw some interest as well. But
Yeah.
it's really about doing these things, empowering people, and I think it kind of comes together around that.
For sure. And I think I want to be as straightforward as possible in this next piece that I wanted to ask you about. Maybe you could just and I think Mike has some more questions that he wants to ask you that are related to this. So we mentioned it a couple times, but do you want to just tell us what OneShot Golf is for people that
Yes.
that haven't taken the time to download and try it out?
Yes, yeah, that would be great. So, OneShot Golf is the first product we have out in the market here from 54E, and you might know it on TikTok or some other platforms as that game that lets you control robots. But it is a golf game where you can go on your mobile device from wherever the heck you are. If you're riding the bus, if you're sitting in class, if you're laying in bed at night, doesn't matter. Pop open your phone, open the app. You can compete in real world mini golf using real world putters that are controlled by robots in our facility. You control them. You get to make them go left, right, power them up, make them swing and putt a ball, and play competitive mini golf against other people from all over North America. You get to compete for real prizes and stuff like that too, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, and Tim, you'd mentioned obviously that like golf is a popular pastime in Saskatchewan. I think obviously a lot of us probably grew up playing mini golf, and Steve and I finally got into. We've been resisting doing the corporate golf scene just because we're both bad at golf. But this year we finally committed to going to a tournament, so now I think we're back into the golf scene. But like knowing, given you'd mentioned earlier that it was like number 11 in the App Store, like what was your reaction to the response that you've seen? To the game and how it's, it's on TikTok, it's everywhere. And it's obviously, it's been a pretty popular game throughout the pandemic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think we always believed that it was something that could be popular like that. I don't know if we realized exactly how quickly it would explode. We have big dreams now, and have from the beginning of OneShot Golf, being a even more competitive and more social experience than it is today. And but things took off for us. I think this idea that someone out there in the world would give you the ability to control a robot and do whatever the heck you want with it for free from your phone, just kind of blew people's minds a little bit. And it's such a neat concept. It's in some ways, I think, empowering. Just take control of something, do what you want with it. Mm-hmm. We put live hosts in our app, so there's real people who can sit there and in your game wave at you, give you a thumbs up, say no, please don't hit the ball at me, or whatever it is, and just host your experience too. And people have found that really entertaining. We have lots of big dreams and plans for what comes next with that as well. But yeah, it was something that we knew had a lot of potential, and then really, I think, exceeded our expectations in terms of how much people were blown away and interested in the concept. Just to say one more quick thing on that. This idea in a competitive world where you're playing golf and competing against someone else, that it's not a rigged game behind the scenes where, okay, I'm just, I'm putting in video game physics and the game decides whether I get it in. You can't do that in the real world. Mm-hmm. This idea that you hit a ball and you can see it actually go in the actual physical hole, really, I think changes the game for like competitive gameplay, and we've really seen that from our users as well.
No, and I think, I don't want to jump ahead because I think we want to obviously talk about like where do you go from now or from here, because I think there's obviously all sorts of other applications. But one of the things we did want to ask you about, because again, we were excited to have you on because this past year, Cambrian College launched a game design program. And so obviously, given you're on the show here and a lot of our students are hopefully listening to the podcast, we don't know for sure, but we like to think that they're tuning in from time to time. We figured that at least this week, when this episode airs, that we should have some game design students hopefully tuning in. So, having you on the show, we wanted to ask you, what is some advice that you would give to students who are looking to break into the gaming industry today?
Yeah, so it's an interesting thing. That's awesome that you guys are launching a program like that. It's really great to see. I'm a big believer that the games industry in general is one that is just going to continue to grow like wildfire. but we're very non-traditional here in what we do in relation to gaming and building and designing a game. A lot of our assets in game are real world things made with 3D printers and wood and steel, and it's so we're a little bit unique out there in the world, a little bit non-traditional. But there are aspects of game design that are true for everyone, and one of those things, we're really big believers in community around gaming. It was part of our success with Gas Buddy, and it's part of our story now is a heavy community focus. And even stuff like Pokemon Go had their 5-year anniversary, I think, last year. And if you go and look at all the articles, interviewed players, well, why are you still playing Pokemon Go? That was so 2016. The answer is invariably the community is amazing. And I think fostering community in games, all that kind of stuff, an ability to build a game that fosters community and respects community, provides good support to that community, is really, really, really important.
And you'd mentioned, like, with your company, you guys are obviously, it's a little bit non-traditional because you're incorporating like real world elements. You've got to have the 3D printing, the wood, the steel, the robotics, all of that stuff. And obviously students that go through game design programs, whether it's at Cambrian or elsewhere, they're going to get the fundamental game design concepts in those courses. But when it comes time to actually get into industry, are there any tools or technologies that you see out there that students should be picking up and hopefully bringing into industry that they may not get in the classroom, but what's something that you see on your team that it would be great if you knew how to do this? Because we're seeing more and more that, you may not get taught that in school, but you're being relied upon to do this now that you're in the workforce.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, I think that stuff can move really, really fast. And that stuff can change all the time. I can tell you what tech we use today, and I can talk about that a little bit and all those things, but it all changes, and it changes quickly. And one of I think the most important things that anybody can do is to if there's something you want to be involved with, or there's something you want to be doing, try doing it yourself. Put it out there. It can suck. That's okay. If you want to do game design, listen, make a mobile game. If you want to be into mobile games, put it out there. It can suck. That's okay. Do it, complete it, put it out there, and then do it again. And I promise you, the next time it's going to be a little bit better and a little bit better. And I've never seen a better way to get into something than that kind of iterative process where you really do it. And when we look for people here to bring on board, we look for people who are out there trying to do stuff themselves, for sure. And we work a lot with the university here too, University of Regina, U of S, certainly others as well. But it's always about the drive of the individual to do those things. So in a world where things change quickly, I always think that's one of the most important things.
Yeah. And Tim, this just sort of occurred to me. We talked to some companies that are claiming to be within the metaverse, and I wanted to just ask you, I'm going to ask this a bit provocatively, are you guys a big FU to the metaverse? Are you the antidote to the metaverse? Because you're flipping that on its head a bit, right? You're taking a virtual world and tethering it directly to a real reality. Do you have any particular views on that? It's okay if you don't. It's just it seems to be like a departure from where that trend seems to be going, and making a speculative bubble, in my view. But go ahead.
Yeah, in my head, when Zuck went out there and renamed Facebook to Meta, every CEO of every digital company in the world got together with their executive team and had a meeting where they said, "Are we in the metaverse?" So I think that answer is largely to be decided for everyone. I don't know what the metaverse shapes out to be, but if I were going to take a stab at it, I think this idea of the metaverse, if it comes to be the way that Facebook, not Facebook anymore, Meta, or any of these other companies, have talked about it, it'll be very, very, very pervasive, very out there, very involved in everything. And if I were to try to apply that to what we're doing, I think we are a technology that brings virtual into the real world. So in that sense, we're kind of the opposite of the metaverse. But if there's a virtual avatar of you, giving that virtual avatar the ability to go play mini golf sounds like a pretty cool idea.
Yeah, you almost plug right into it, eh? Yeah. So golf you seem to have conquered. Where are we going with 54E? Are we going to darts? Are we going to basketball? Uh, what you can tell us, where are we going next with 54E?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. This is a project born of automation and robotics that's out there in the world, and we feel like we have a core technology that enables control of robotics and manual control of robotics when you need it. And so this kind of underpins our roots and where we've come from, and what we see as sort of some of our special value out there. But um, gaming is such a huge market and such an amazing place to be, because people adopt new technology so quickly. They're willing to try things out. It was a great place for us to start, and I think there's lots more that we can still do with golf. As I mentioned earlier, there's so much more social, competitive kind of stuff we can be doing. I really think this idea of controlling things in the real world, and what we've seen is a lot of people want to watch that happening too, just strictly as an entertainment experience. So there's lots more we have planned for OneShot Golf, kind of in that vein. We have certainly put our heads together and have thought about some of the future games and potential products for what we're doing here, but I'll keep my lips a little bit sealed on that for the moment. But I think this idea of this connected reality tech, this tech to control, use your phone to control robots in the real world. I think we're just at the very beginning of it. I think there's so much more to come. I think there's so many more use cases out there. I read an article the other day about how White Castle is just rolling out robots that flip hamburgers to 100 of their restaurants or something like that. And those robots are going to break down at some point in time, or those robots are going to run into a problem. And if there's nobody there in that building, maybe you need a piece of technology to help control those or make things happen. And I think this connected reality idea is gonna fit more and more into people's lives as we look forward.
If you really want to get into the metaverse, I think if it's controlling golf robots from your phone, but you're playing the virtual golf game that you can play like at a place like Mulligan's, right? Where you go there and you actually swing the club and the ball goes into the virtual world, right? So then it's real world, but it's also virtual. And then anyway, I think my mind's running away with it. So I'll leave you with that though.
Yeah. And you know what, Tim, again, very generous with your time. I think that, it definitely makes me want to pick up my cell phone and see if I can knock some balls around all the way in Regina from Sudbury, Ontario. But we just wanted to thank you for joining us today and sharing not only the ins and outs of your actual product, but I think a lot of what came through is your philosophy and your business philosophy, and hopefully some of our listeners can find that as instructive and inspirational as well. So thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Thanks, Tim. Looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with next.
Yeah, it'll be big.
Okay,
cool.
We'll stay tuned. Okay, take care. OneShot Golf would have been a great game or concept for a game when I was younger. I don't think I've shared this publicly or definitely not on the podcast, and probably not publicly, but there was a time in my life when I was banned from mini golf. The family placed a lifetime ban on Michael Commito from ever participating in mini golf.
Okay, I have so many questions already, of course. How old were you?
Oh, I was it kind of persisted until I was probably like, I remember distinctly mini golfing in Timmins, and they're like, this is the last time you get to go golfing with us. And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't at least 12 or 14 years old.
So old enough to know better.
Old enough to know better for sure. I guess I still am very competitive, bit of a perfectionist, but obviously when you're a lot younger, you can't keep those emotions in check. And when a putt didn't go my way at the mini golf course, let's just say it was not a good scene. So I remember a few times, this is the last time you were going, and then eventually you're never going mini golfing again. So at least with this game, you could ground me in my room, and then at least I could have controlled robotic robots doing golf rather than me doing mini golf, right? So
yeah, and you know what? I'm sorry that happened to you, and I
should actually say sorry to if my mom's listening. Sorry, Mom, again for all those times.
Yeah, I think you had mentioned in the episode that you and I had the opportunity to reintroduce ourselves into the golf game through a corporate event we attended last summer. And I think we would have looked a lot better if we were playing one-shot golf versus actually being at the golf course.
Well, I just remember how dialed in we were after we went to the range in the morning and
Absolutely.
then got to the golf course. Obviously, the pressure is visceral once you're actually competing, and you performed better than I did. I melted under the pressure. I left that driving range in the morning being like, I'm gonna just sky these balls today, and I didn't do any of that on the golf course. So
Well, and I left the range feeling very bad about myself and then turned it around as the day went on. But one thing I will say is I don't own my own golf shoes. That shows you how much I golf. And I, to this day, still have bruises on the ends of my toes from wearing size 10 when I wear a size 12 usually. So maybe
Yeah.
next time I'll actually invest in a pair of golf shoes.
Yeah, no, and I mean, at least with OneShot Golf, you don't need shoes. You just need to have a good good Wi-Fi connectivity. But it's when Tim was talking about, like, he did kind of leave us with when I said we look forward to what you do next, and he said it's going to be big. I mean, I'm just thinking there's all sorts of, like, to your point, like you could do robot basketball. I'm thinking you could actually do like full on like golf, like full on robot swings. To get like to do drives again. Maybe you'd have to do the simulated environment where you're shooting the ball into like a screen, because obviously to have the real estate to have you have to have a massive warehouse to do real golf. But
or you could be in Regina with huge open plains.
Yeah, and you're actually maybe that's what he's getting at.
Maybe it is.
We
Maybe
don't want
that's
to
what he meant
speculate
by
on
big.
behalf of Tim's going to be listening to this being like, no, guys, this is not what I was getting at all.
Yeah, the other thing I was thinking of is, I was one of these nerds that loved battle bots. It'd be really cool if you could like virtually control a real battle bot and go and destroy your competition. But I'm sure whatever it is, it'll be really interesting, and I'm sure it'll get a lot of uptake.
Well, and let me ask you this before we probably cut it off. What was the first video game that you fell in love with?
Now I'm much younger than you, so no. Okay, so like if I'm being honest. If I'm being super honest, it was Super Mario Brothers on the original Nintendo Entertainment System. That was probably like my first love. My parents would always make fun of me because I'd actually watch my sister play when it was her turn. I was always Luigi. My sister was always Mario, and I'd move along with the character. It was so stressful. But yeah, it was definitely Mario Brothers.
Yeah, I think the first video game I truly remember playing was Sonic.
Really?
And so we had a Genesis in the house when I was growing up. But my grandmother, for some reason, my Ukrainian grandmother, Baba, she had an NES at her house because she used to, like, when we were younger, she would watch some kids as part of her side hustles, I guess. And so she had the gaming system there. So whenever we go and visit, we'd play NES there. We played Mario and Zelda and all that other stuff, right? But our household was a Sega household, so different experiences there. But yeah, that was the first game I can remember being like, holy shit, what is this? And then of course it became, now we need to get one of these in our house, right? And
I thought you were going to say Pong. Because you're
I'm not that
year
old.
older than you're
I'm a full
me.
year older than you, just in a different era of technology, though.
Yeah. No, that's great. I'm of course obsessed with Call of Duty now. I'm a big Warzone fan. But what a departure from the side-scrolling days of the Mario Brothers or Sonic, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And now even into the future with what Tim's got going on. So anyway, I think we've gone on long enough. I hope everyone has a good chance to enjoy this podcast app, and stay tuned to see more from 54E Dev Studios.
I'm hoping it's hockey. Maybe it's hockey.
Maybe it's hockey.
Maybe it's hockey. All right. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.
The Unlikely Innovators with Mike Commito and Steve Gravel. Presented by Cambrian R&D and the Center for Smart Mining.